What up, Vigilantes? I'm here with the one and only Aaron Day. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing awesome. And yourself?
I'm doing great. So you are running for president. What's going on? Is that still something that's active?
No, I was running for president. Excuse me. I was running for president for one specific reason, which was to elevate the central bank digital currency issue. So I actually ran as a Republican because I wanted to get into the debates to actually warn people about how dangerous the threat of CBDCs are. And I wasn't successful in that, but I was able to talk to people in 20 states and many of the other presidential candidates, including Vivek, who actually read my book. So part of what motivated this is I wrote a book called The Final Countdown, which is all about the threats of CBDCs and how we can stop them. And so Vivek read this book, and then I talked to him about it 3 or 4 times. And then this is part of what drove him to tell Trump to come out against CBDCs. So, but I don't think there's a political solution. So with that said, actually, that's probably done more harm than good. That's a whole separate other aspect. But once I realized how far along CBDCs are, I'm like, I've got to set the warning flares out, because people have no idea what's going on with CBDCs.
I mean, it's to me, it's very similar to what we already have, which is a digital dollar. But on top of that, we're going to have tracking and a digital ID. Is that pretty much the CBDC for you in a nutshell?
Well, so, most of what people are concerned about with CBDCs, we already have with the existing fiat system. So they're already tracking our transactions. In fact, if you look at the terms and conditions of your contract with the bank, it says some very interesting things. It says that they can change the terms of service without your consent. They can cancel your account without consent. They can share or sell your data without your consent. And they are. So banks are actually now working with the IRS and using AI software to analyze people's transactions. And they can change fees without consent. So a lot of those things people are worried about with respect to CBDCs. CBDCs add something new to this, which is the ability to program the money. So basically to be able to determine what you can buy, what you can sell, when you can buy it, when you can sell it, and tie that to social credit systems and to digital IDs. And it gets worse because as they're building this and rolling it out, they're going to actually require all digital assets to be registered on the same system as CBDCs. So they're going to be able to track, monitor, program, and censor all of your assets and all of your digital cash on one platform. That's actually what's being built in the United States, and it's what's being built around the globe.
I mean, David,
yeah.
Look, Aaron, I'm at the point where I just realized that people just seem to want and enjoy their slavery. I mean, what are your thoughts? It seems like we have the tools there to free us from this encroaching turnkey tyranny, but yet people, even within crypto, don't seem to go after the use of these technologies in a way where freedom goes up. Not just number go up, but freedom goes up. What's going on? Please help us understand, Aaron. What's going on here?
This has been a big psyop that's been going on for quite some time. And actually, I should probably take a step back and tell you what motivated me to write the book and even run for president to begin with. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. I started my first company 30 years ago, sold it, became an investor for a while, started a second company. That company was destroyed by Obamacare, Dodd-Frank, and the Department of Justice. And so that took me on this tour of liberty activism in basically 2008. And so I've been doing liberty activism ever since. I moved to New Hampshire as part of the Free State Project. I was actually the chair of the Free State Project for a while, started a lot of political groups, helped get over 100 people elected at the state level, actually ran for US Senate, a whole bunch of other stuff. And then I gave up on politics completely in 2018. I realized that there's no way out. And we could talk about that for hours, and I won't go into that. But I was introduced to Bitcoin in 2012. I actually first learned about Bitcoin from Ian Freeman and Roger Ver. I heard Roger Ver speak at a Free State Project event in 2012. And so, I immediately fell in love with Bitcoin. I fell in love with the idea of being able to use peer-to-peer cash without any third parties. And every business that I've run has actually had problems with payment processors or issues related to money in banks, every one. And it's unrelated even to my activities. It's just collateral damage with the system. So in 2019, I exited fiat completely. So I've been living on crypto, gold, and silver exclusively since 2019. And the reason how I found out about CBDCs was, I'd exited politics. I'm basically living on crypto. I'm pursuing projects in crypto, mostly related to the tokenization and trading of assets. And then I see my friends start to get targeted by the federal government. So Jeremy Kauffman is a free stater. He started library.com. The SEC targeted him, put his company out of business. And then they targeted Ian Freeman. And I actually sat in on Ian's sentencing hearing. So Ian is in federal prison for 8 years for selling Bitcoin. So I wanted to look into, well, why is this happening? Why are they going after these guys? Because these weren't necessarily huge projects. Ian wasn't dealing with a lot of money. And in fact, what Ian did wasn't illegal, or it wasn't even on and what he was doing wasn't on a large scale. So why were there 5 departments of the federal government going after Ian? And what I found in studying CBDCs is that they've been working on CBDCs in the United States since 2015. They started really accelerating their efforts in 2019. And right now in the US, President Biden has an executive order, 14067, and the executive order has 2 parts to it. One is it's the policy of the United States federal government to pursue a CBDC, and also to take a whole of government approach to regulating digital assets, which is exactly what they're doing. So Ian being in prison, Roger Ver being targeted and arrested in Spain, all of these developers, the SEC action, the CFTC, Treasury, all of it is explicitly coordinated to shut off any competition to bring in CBDCs. But then it gets worse. When you read Roger's book, Hijacking BItcoin, he takes it from kind of the inception of Bitcoin to 2017. But what I found is that the same people that funded, I would call it hobbling of Bitcoin, basically this shifting of the narrative from digital cash to digital gold, funded all 3 US CBDC pilots. So in other words, we took Bitcoin, which could have been peer-to-peer digital cash for the world, could allow people everywhere to engage in voluntary trade. That was taken away. And now it is a expensive, slow digital gold asset that people buy through WEF partner companies like BlackRock. Well, those same people, while doing that, funded these CBDC pilots that are now very advanced in development, like incredibly advanced.
Like Project Hamilton. Project Hamilton, does that ring a bell?
Project Hamilton rings a bell. So Project Hamilton is the retail CBDC. So this is what would replace what we typically use as cash. And one of the co-authors of the white paper of Project Hamilton is Corey Fields. Corey Fields is a Bitcoin Core developer who worked on SegWit and Lightning Network. Like, you can't make this stuff up. It's literally common overlapping people, developers of Bitcoin. While Bitcoin was permanently made slow and expensive, some of the same developers were working on the system that now can do 1.8 million transactions per second. The US retail CBDC can do 1.8 million transactions per second. Bitcoin can do 7 transactions per second. So what we're witnessing here,
they literally took big blocker Bitcoin and wrapped it in a way that is centralized for Project Hamilton.
Yes.
Crazy. And these guys, but for Bitcoin itself, they wanted to cripple it in the form of 7 transactions per second.
And now we have thousands of people in Tennessee descending on this Bitcoin conference, literally shouting and cheering and thinking that they're promoting freedom money while working with politicians and regulators. Like we have completely and totally lost the plot here on Bitcoin. And so this is the challenge. So the challenge is, if you started out and you were sick of the failure of central banks, and you were sick of all of the tyranny, and you were sick of the existing financial system, well, the group of people working on those alternatives has shrunk to almost nothing. And now you have people out there, hundreds of thousands of people, that are promoting something that they don't know what they're promoting. And that's the challenge, because how do you educate people? Because now people have, $1.26 trillion worth of incentives to keep pumping their coin and to keep deluding themselves about the narrative that Bitcoin is freedom money. Bitcoin is surveillance money that is not an alternative to CBDCs. It will enable CBDCs. It's not an alternative to CBDCs.
I know. And it sucks. It sucks because oh man, I wouldn't even know where to start to talk to you about this. But where do you find yourself emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, knowing all of this and being a person that understands all of this deeply and intimately? Like, how do you deal with this? Like, what do you how do you stay sane, man? Knowing
So I
that
put,
like
yeah.
that Bitcoin has been in a sense has been co-opted, has been psyoped, and literally Bitcoin is now part of the machinery of slavery.
Well, so the way that I deal with it is, we have free will, and so I don't, as many people have already resigned themselves to CBDCs are inevitable. I do not resign myself to CBDCs are inevitable. I think this is the most important battle for liberty and free will is stopping CBDCs and moving people to alternatives. So I've put my life on hold, and I'm spending 100% of my time doing two things: educating, informing people about the threat of CBDCs, but more importantly, empowering them to start using alternative assets for day-to-day commerce, like I've been doing since 2019. So I'm doing workshops all over the United States, 4-hour workshops. And when people walk out of those workshops, they have a self-custody crypto wallet with crypto. They get a gold back because there's actually physical gold that you can now use, and physical silver, and now I'm even moving into giving people privacy tokens, so you can tokenize and trade your own assets using a crypto called Zano, which I think is an important part of the solution to stopping the CBDCs and stopping something called the Great Taking. So my approach on this is we have free will. uh, we can stop it, and it's just now about educating as many people as quickly as possible. And this is why I'm doing the tweeting that I'm doing today and tomorrow, is because I know a lot of media attention is focused on this Bitcoin conference, and so I want to try to get the kind of the alternative view in there as people who may be for the first time investigating these things. They see, oh, Trump said something positive about Bitcoin. Maybe I should get into Bitcoin. I want to try to actually at least frame this narrative and give people some information before they go down the wrong path. Along with this is I've been working on building. Well, I was originally working on building wallets, but I'm just partnering with people as well. One of the most disappointing things about crypto. So, I've been using it since 2012. I've been living on it exclusively since 2019. And crypto is in the position that it is for a couple of reasons. Yes, it was hijacked. And yes, we have government regulators that have been trying to crack down on it. But we also haven't innovated. When I got my first Bitcoin in 2012, it was fast, it was cheap, it was nearly instant, it was a fraction of a penny, and it was better than anything that existed in the marketplace. But since 2012, big tech and the financial services industry they've launched Venmo, they've launched Zelle, Google Pay, Apple Pay, soon to be X payments. So the actual product isn't better. It hasn't competed. The entire crypto space has been so focused on either number go up or fighting within crypto that they stopped to take a look at what was going on around them, stopped to look at what and didn't look at what banks were doing or big tech or central banks, even more alarmingly. And so we need better products, because at this point, the people that are in crypto because they want the separation of money and state, those people are all in. If you want to get new people and you want to get real adoption, then the product and service actually has to be better, faster, cheaper. So that has to be part of the focus at this point in time. And I actually have narrowed down that I think the biggest bottleneck that we have is that we don't have a good point of sale system. We don't have a good system for merchants that can take multiple assets, not just one crypto. It's got to be a combination of certain cryptos, gold, silver. We don't have a really easy way for merchants to be able to have a solution that has enough combined buying power, but that is also has cheap enough and fast enough transactions to compete. When they roll out CBDCs, they're going to roll it out the way that they roll out TARP or the Patriot Act or the CARES Act. It's going to be in an emergency. We're going to have it. In fact, and it's probably going to be terrorist related, because when you look at the legislation in Congress, one of the things that really frustrates me is I see all these crypto people that are new to politics. And they're like, wow, these Republicans are great. These Republicans like crypto. The Republicans are actively passing just this week legislation that is all about terrorism and money laundering, that puts in information that strengthens KYC, AML, makes it more difficult to use crypto, has more reporting, that is going down the path of kind of banning privacy coins. This has actively been voted on in the House of Representatives. Every bill that they've put through Congress that looks like it has a pro-crypto title on it gives more power to banks, less power to the individual, and imposes more reporting requirements. So there is no political solution because at the end of the day, these politicians and Congress rely on the power of the purse. That is their key thing. That is their key to power. They don't actually want competition at all, and they work for and are funded by the banks. So it's this mindset of, we need to start using these alternatives. So I'm working on a point of sale system that can kind of integrate all of these features and all of these assets. And if we have that, then we can actually onboard more people and get more commerce going. But disappointingly, I just saw yesterday, only 0.4% of Americans have used crypto to make a purchase in the last 30 days. 0.4%. It was 2% 2 years ago. So we're actually seeing a drop off. And I will tell you, it is more difficult for me living on crypto this month than it was last month. And it's more difficult than it was a year ago. It is harder to because a lot of times you're using gift cards or you're using debit cards, or the number of retailers that actually take crypto directly has dropped. So we're actually in a downward spiral. So on the one hand, you have people that are like, oh, Bitcoin's great. We've got this big conference. We have all this stuff going on. In the meantime, fewer people are using the technology for actual peer-to-peer commerce.
I mean, a lot of it has to do with the fact that this has been a psyop that we suffered through. It's not that the technology is not there, but the fact that there are many cryptocurrencies, and there are many cryptocurrencies because there was a time where we had point of sale systems for Bitcoin, but because of the Civil War, because of the of what we suffered through the crippling of Bitcoin itself, now known as BTC, we find ourselves in a position where it's not just the technology anymore, but it's the people that have been conditioned to an altcoin market and to relying on the dollar and to chasing the dollar, that whole number go up mentality. The question that I do have for you, however, is do you think that we've reached the cap in crypto regarding liberty-oriented adopters? Because it seems like the mainstream media, people that just live off the programming and that are program entities, they're literal NPCs. They don't care for freedom. They don't care for anything that we're talking about right now. In fact, they think that they're pretty free. And if they have any hope or if they have any problem, they don't seek freedom. They rather seek some authority to solve it for them. So we live in a world where the masses are conditioned. Did we reach a cap in crypto in terms of the libertarian adoption?
I do not believe that we have reached a cap in crypto. I think that at all. I think we have to regroup, and I think that I'll tell you, for me, it's interesting because when I think about Ian and Roger, so Roger Ver learned about Bitcoin from Ian Freeman. Okay, so this is kind of the order of operations. Ian talked about it on Free Talk Live in 2010. Well, if you look at it, why are they in prison, or in Roger's case, out on bail, but still, being they were probably more influential. We wouldn't be having this conversation. That Bitcoin conference wouldn't exist were it not for Ian and Roger and all of the early work evangelizing, and then what Roger did as the first business to take it, the first person to invest in Bitcoin-related companies. None of this stuff would exist. So they literally cut off the two people that had the loudest voice. Ian had syndicated radio all over the United States every day for 3 hours. And Roger has a massive footprint all over the place, all over the world, with all of the investments and things that he's been involved in. So they shut them down. So the challenge that we have right now is we have to get the word out. At no point is the mainstream media ever going to push our narrative, because the mainstream media is there to push a completely different narrative. So there's no point at which the mainstream media will ever promote our position. That's not how it's structured. But the way that I like to look at this is the way I look at technology companies, and I think it's true with how ideas spread. You have innovators, which are like 2.5%. And then you have early adopters, which is 13.5%. And then you have to go through this phase where it's called crossing the chasm, which is the most difficult part in technology adoption. And then you get to early majority, which is 34%, and so on and so forth. And I think so. This is how this is going to work. It's never going to, nothing ever starts at mass market adoption. Everything always starts with innovation. The problem that happened with crypto is the innovation part got fractured into 20,000 pieces. This is the challenge, right? So if we just had one coin, if we just had Bitcoin and everybody were aligned on that, we'd be in a completely different place. But when you shatter the innovators into 20,000 different parts, now you have just complete chaos. And so, but the key is we still need to go after those early adopters, and we need to build tools. I think the key to it is making tools that are easy to use. So I do workshops all over the United States with between 100 and 300 people. And I will tell you, the people that I am talking to in these workshops, these are not people that are in our normal community. These are not people from the libertarian side or the crypto side. These are people that were radicalized by COVID and that have woken up and have started to ask questions about, well, what is the Federal Reserve? Why do I have inflation? There are tens of millions of people out there that have never touched crypto. And it's interesting, when I do my talk, I ask people, and this is pretty disappointing, more people outside of the echo chamber have heard of Sam Bankman-Fried than Satoshi Nakamoto. I literally do a poll when I do my talk.
That's intense.
Most people don't know you can even use crypto as a currency. They're unaware of it as a use case. Most people think that it is only a speculative investment. And actually, the majority of people have a negative view of it as an investment, in part probably because if you're informed that SBF is more of kind of the leadership of what crypto is all about, then that would probably make sense that you would think that it's more of a scam. So when I go through these things, so after 4 hours, right? So then once I explain what's going on, then these people are energized. But these are people that have never touched cryptocurrency, and they're out there and they are ready. They're looking for alternatives. They know, people understand. Interestingly, though, as well, older people understand more than younger people. Boomers actually this is why I've been shocked. I was in Silicon Valley in front of 100 people, and these were mostly boomers, not necessarily technical. And they'd never touched crypto before, but they actually have decent net worths. They actually have some money and they have some capacity, and they're completely open to this. The biggest challenge is actually the ease of use. That's what I found. So when I'm sitting there, it's like, okay, I can give you, people understand a gold back, right? I mean, this is, people understand cash. What we might think in the crypto space is user friendly is not, people didn't have a lot of boomers involved in user testing and UI design and putting together crypto wallets and crypto products. Let's be realistic. It's been a bunch of 20-year-old dudes developing stuff for 20-year-old dudes. So if we actually just add some UI to it, I'm telling you, there are tens of millions of people in the United States that are now open to this, but it won't work unless it's as good or better than the existing financial system. So I believe we can be successful at this, but what it's going to require is building a solution that's user-friendly, that can actually handle enough transactions per second, because we're going to have to onboard people in an emergency, right? We're not going to get mass adoption ahead of the emergency. So we're going to have to be in a situation where we have a life raft ready. So when there's the terrorist attack or the false flag or whatever it is, most of the time when these fear-based events are triggered, people are given no choice, right? It's either you take this or you have no other alternative. Take CBDCs or lose the money in your bank account. If we can actually present them with an alternative, that's how we can actually win. And that's how we can actually shut down the system, because their system requires nearly 100% compliance. I mean, 2 or 3% of people exiting the existing fiat system, and they're in trouble because the system is already highly leveraged and collapsing. The problem is they know that too. It's a controlled demolition. So if we can kind of unwind their thing before they have a chance to roll everything out, then we actually have a shot. So I do believe that it is possible, but I think that is what's required, actually having user-friendly tools. And I'm going to continue to go. I'm booking 17 of these workshops all over the US, and the workshops are getting larger. More people are turning out. I mean, and these are people in a million years we would have not been talking to. 5 years ago, 7 years ago, we would have laughed about even the idea that these people would show up for a workshop like this. So I have that gives me a little bit of hope and confidence, but I will say it's exhausting because we're almost out of time. And what I hadn't sensed, even in the Liberty community and the crypto community, is any sense of urgency. And by the way, I understand why, because when I started researching CBDCs, here's some interesting facts. In 2020, there were only 35 countries at the research stage. Other than China, nobody had rolled out a CBDC, right, in 2020. 35 at the research stage. Today, 134 countries representing 98% of global GDP are at some phase of researching, piloting, developing, or rolling out CBDCs. 11 countries have rolled out CBDCs. There are more CBDC accounts globally today than there are crypto accounts. And all of that has happened just in 4 years. So while we're sitting here talking about adoption, one of the things that drives me nuts about Bitcoin maxis is like, well, Rome wasn't built in a day and it's going to take time. And they try to compare how long it took for gold and other things to be used. It's like, no, Instagram, TikTok, OpenAI, we live in a modern world where technological adoption happens overnight. You can get a billion users in 24 months. And they're sitting around like, well, and so they're not taking it seriously. And so now all of crypto has been dwarfed by these CBDC accounts. Not that people like them, right? And it's not that they're great, but they're being consistent in rolling them out and making adjustments. I mean, they're committed to this strategy because at the end, this ends up being a global government type of situation where energy credits back actually what currency is. I could go into that. I go into that in the book. But they're committed to their strategy, and we're sitting here like, well, my coin is better than your coin, and it's like, great. Bitcoin has a $1.26 trillion market cap. That's like less than half of Apple, and it's a little more than 2 times the value of frequent flyer points, right? So in broader perspective here, if we're looking at really competing globally and offering something in the digital payment space, it's still a drop in the bucket after 15 years. And now it's a distraction because the people that are putting their money into Bitcoin are not putting their money into something that can be used as an alternative to CBDCs. They're actually putting their money into something that can be easily confiscated. I believe that the ETFs were approved to make it easy to confiscate Bitcoin. It's even in the risk factors of the ETFs themselves, right? BlackRock isn't taking custody of these Bitcoin. They're using Coinbase. So now if I buy a BlackRock Bitcoin ETF, I own a part of this financial instrument, and then BlackRock doesn't even hold the coins. Coinbase holds the coins. When I sell my ETF shares, I don't get redeemed in Bitcoin. I get paid in fiat. And so if the government decided to do with Bitcoin what they did with gold, people will say, well, they could never do that. Okay, well, if all of the new people flooding into Bitcoin have it centrally custodied at Coinbase, actually, it'll be easier to confiscate Bitcoin than it was to confiscate gold. It could be done more or less instantaneously. And so people are walking into an absolute trap. And it's very hard to communicate and message this, right? Because it's like, okay, well, there's me out here saying this. There are a few other people out there saying this, but we're competing against the marketing of Fidelity and BlackRock and all of these financial institutions. And then everybody that's a bag holder is just interested in their number going up. So people aren't interested in seeing this alternative information. When Roger wrote his book, Hijacking BItcoin, I put out just a short, it wasn't even a full review, but I recommended it. I was blocked by Adam Back, Luke Dash Jr. I was blocked by several Bitcoin core devs. I've been blocked by Michael Saylor. And this is part of what Roger talks about in the book, is that there's been a consistent propaganda and censorship campaign against anyone that speaks out against Bitcoin or promotes alternative views. That goes on today. And now we have BlackRock and Fidelity involved. And now we have politicians starting to get involved. So I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it's possible, but it is not easy. And I'm grateful to be able to be on to talk to you about this, because this is how we get the word out. And I found Very few people that understand how far along CBDCs are. And I will say, in the Liberty community, some of the biggest mistakes that I hear, people say the government is incompetent. Look at Obamacare. They'll never be able to pull off a CBDC. I'm going to make this very clear. It is not the government that is building the CBDC. It is the largest banks in the world funding the smartest developers in the world, including some BTC developers and people out of MIT. The government is not involved in any of the technological building of a CBDC at all. The only role of the government and the role of Congress in pushing through a CBDC is to vote on a bill that bankers write that they don't read. And I think we can probably all agree that that's something Congress is pretty good at. That is the only thing that they need to do to make CBDCs happen. The rest of it is done by people that have money and that actually are intelligent with respect to the application of technology. The other thing is, a lot of people say, well, central bank digital currency, the banks won't want that because people will just have accounts directly with the Federal Reserve and that'll put the banks out of business. That's not how these are rolled out. It works is the same way that it works right now. The central bank will issue digital currency to the banks. So the central bank will issue CBDCs to JP Morgan Chase, to Wells Fargo, to all of the banks. And then those banks will continue doing their normal business with mortgages and all the other fiat things that they do. They'll just have this new added programmability and increased surveillance. That's how CBDCs have already been rolled out. That's how they did it in China. That's how they're planning to do it in the United States. So if you're sitting there saying, oh, it'll never happen because the banks don't want it or the government's corrupt, those 2 points are false.
So you don't think banks, commercial banks, fear that this intermediation from the central bank?
Small banks might, but small banks are going to get wiped out anyway. This is all going to end up being consolidated with a handful of the largest banks anyway. So it's not that the small and medium-sized banks, it's not like there's anything they can do about it anyway. And I do want to say there's something that over the last 3 or 4 months, have you heard of the Great Taking?
Please explain.
There's a book, excuse me, by a guy named David Rogers Webb called The Great Taking. You can get it for free online. It's a PDF. This guy's an investment banker, very successful, and he was researching, and what he found is after the 2008 financial crisis, a group lobbied and went to all 50 states and got changes made at the state level to the UCC codes. And bottom line, what this means is this: you don't own the stocks in your brokerage account. You don't own the stocks in your 401k. You don't own your IRA. If there is a financial collapse and the whole system goes down, then the secured creditors, so if Fidelity goes under, you don't get those shares. The secured creditor is in first position and would actually get the shares from Fidelity. This is a legal framework that has already been put in place in all 50 states. And it was tested in some way with Lehman Brothers because, I don't want to go into all the details, but Lehman Brothers served as their own secured creditor. So when Lehman Brothers went broke, they were the secured creditor. So they first took their customers' assets as the secured creditor, and then JP Morgan Chase came in and was the secured creditor to Lehman Brothers and took the secured position of Lehman Brothers. So basically, some of the customers of Lehman Brothers actually lost their funds through this set of legal relationships, which was upheld in court. Now, why is all this important? This is important because we talked about Project Hamilton as being the retail CBDC. There's another, I'll call it a CBDC project called Regulated Liability Network. This is a project that is a collaboration between MIT, the Federal Reserve of New York, 5 large banks in New York, Bank for International Settlements, DTCC, all of these players.
Now we know what Epstein was funding at MIT. Okay, great.
We literally do. There is a quote from Epstein from 2017. He did an interview about Bitcoin, and he said Bitcoin is not a currency; it is a store of value. By the way,
yeah, he was part of the same group of people that are now being celebrated at the Bitcoin 2024 conference. Isn't that crazy? That like they got their start from people like the head of Bilderberg, the AXA CEO of the time.
Yep.
Epstein himself. This is the thing, Aaron, before you keep going, I just feel like I'm personally at the point where I psychologically am just almost like giving up. Like, man, like it's in your it's in your face. Like it doesn't seem like people really want freedom at all. It seems like they just want to enjoy the decline and they just want more slavery. But I'm sorry, you were saying, carry on.
Well, I think most people are uninformed, but look, so there, I think that there's a process and a strategy to how to do this, but let's go back to this great taking. So regulated liability network. What is regulated liability network? It is a platform. It is a ledger that you have to register all of your digital assets, and your digital assets are then tied to your CBDCs. So when I talked about you don't own your stocks, your 401ks, they're going to take your stocks and bonds, tokenize them, put them on this platform, tie it to CBDCs, and then when there's a financial collapse, basically the click of a button, the secured creditors, which are the large banks, are going to end up owning everybody's assets. This is how you get to you will own nothing and be happy. Literally, and it's not just the US building regulated liability networks. The UK is building one. Europe is building one. Japan is building one. And they've designed the regulated liability networks to be able to interoperate. What does that mean? There's going to be one global platform that connects all digital assets and all CBDCs that can be monitored, programmed, and censored by multiple third parties. That is literally what they're building. So my solution to that is, okay, well, one, stop using the dollar, get out of the dollar. But the real way we stop this is we try to educate people to dump their 401ks and dump their IRAs. This is what actually stops this. Because for a long time I'm like, well, we just need people to get out of cash and start using alternative currencies. Well, you know what I found? Nobody has cash. I mean, I've gone all over the country. Nobody sits around in liquid cash, which is actually a good thing, because why would you getting 0.2%, right?
Right.
But what are they doing? Well, they have 401ks, but they don't realize they don't own those 401ks. If the market collapses, they're not going to get ownership of those certificates. And here's the thing, to kind of hit home that you already don't own these shares. When you start a company, a private company, you get stock certificates. You have a shareholders agreement. You have the ability to vote those shares. That is a key component of being a shareholder. So if I've got a 401k, I may have 100 different stocks. Does anybody ever ask you to vote any of the shares in your 401k? No. Why? Because you actually contractually give up your right to vote to the custodian. So when people say BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street own all of these companies, you're probably seeing these maps that show that these guys own all of the companies. They don't own all of the companies. They own all of our voting rights. It's actually our shares, or what we think are our shares, but we've given BlackRock and State Street and Fidelity the ability to vote our shares. We've already given that up contractually.
How did people give that up?
They gave it up through contracts. No one ever reads an agreement. You know, you get Microsoft, you get a new operating system, you log on to Twitter. Do you ever read the contract? Do you read all of the contracts? You know how you click here, accept the terms and conditions? Do you read those?
Most people don't, yes.
Most people don't. And by the way, if you did, you can't do anything about it. What are you going to do? Redline the agreement, send it back to the general counsel at Apple if you don't like the terms? Sorry, this is a take it or leave it agreement. We have given away ownership of all of our data through these click wrap agreements, through technology, but we've also done it with banks. No one looks, the stuff that I said at the beginning about how you don't own the money in the bank account, you don't. Go look at I encourage everybody watching this, go to your bank's website, download the terms and conditions. If you don't want to read all of it, throw it into AI and have it summarize it for you. And what you will find is you really don't own the money. They can cancel the account, they can change the terms, they can give all the data. All of that is there today, and you signed it when you signed that bank account. You signed an agreement giving away all those rights. So when you get a 401k and you have a brokerage agreement, you sign all of that away. You've signed it all away already. So you don't own this, but nobody told you about it. There was no informed consent. And chances are you just clicked on an agreement and you know what? People will even say, well, that's just boilerplate. If you ever see a legal agreement where it's in all caps, I mean, this is the stuff where it's like, well, yeah, nobody ever reads any of this. Yeah, it's pages and pages of stuff in all caps that basically where you give up all of your rights. And it's called boilerplate, and now people don't even read it. So we've given up everything, and we've done it voluntarily. So we can take it back. We have to take back and reclaim ownership of our money and ownership of our assets. So a long time ago, I dumped my 401k. There are tax implications. Anybody over 59 and a half. Oh, and by the way, I can't say, I love this too. This isn't financial advice, right? We have to say that. We have to legally say, I can't give financial advice because there is a group called FINRA, which is a cartel of financial services organizations that has power of the state through the SEC that determines who is and who is not legally a registered financial advisor. And if you are not part of that cartel and you give financial advice, they can send the SEC after you. What a system. So you want to know why the stock market is up over 30 years? It's up over 30 years because the only people that can give licensed financial advice push that strategy. And because we have tax policy that allows up to whatever it is, 10% of your earnings up to a certain cap to go in tax-free to buy these financial instruments. And then you hit a penalty if you try to pull out before you're 59 and a half. To me, that's a social credit system. We're already using tax policy, and then we're using these financial advisors. So we don't really even have a market. It's not a stock market. Who's actually actively picking stocks anymore? Most of the trillions of dollars that goes into the stock market comes out of people's checks every 2 weeks, and they don't even know what's in it. And I say this because I sense your frustration, and there's a psychological aspect to this. And what doesn't get me down about this is I've learned to not hedge. So our attention is our energy. Our money is our energy. And so many people put their energy and their money on things that they don't believe in, that are fallback strategies, that are hedge strategies. In fact, I can't tell you how many people I know that are like, oh, I'm anti-vax. I hate Pfizer. I hate Moderna. And I'm like, oh, okay. Have you looked at your 401k lately? There are people that will go out on social media, go to town council meetings, go to school board meetings and speak out. Or can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you good.
Okay.
Yes.
That speak out against about vaccines, and then they own Moderna and Pfizer in their portfolio. So to me, it's very simple. I only put money in things that I want to see in the world. So I pull my money out of the banks, pull my money out of stocks, and I put my attention and my money on things that I want to see. And I try to encourage other people to do the same. And I think that if we do that we can be successful if we do that. But people have been trained to give up their free will in a way. I mean, and again, we've done it one contract at a time. We've done it over decades, but I think it can be stopped. It's just a matter of warning people. What I just told you about the great taking, almost nobody knows about this. And by the way, people aren't really happy when they hear that the 401k that they think is the basis of their retirement is BS and that they don't own it, right? So you don't make a lot of friends revealing this information to people. This is why, I take a multi-asset approach. So I use different cryptos. I'm now more interested in privacy coins. I liked Bitcoin, and then I went through I like Bitcoin Cash. I went through a BSV phase. I think you and I actually you chatted back and forth about BSV.
Maybe we did, yes.
I spent 5 years on that. I did a whole deep dive on that. And I get what the people that are still there are kind of promoting about it. The world is not moving to one open, transparent system, even if we wanted it to. Every CBDC being developed, all 134 of these CBDCs, they're permissioned systems with central control. Central banks are not signing up for BSV. So now what's happened is people that have used Bitcoin and used these other public ledgers, now with the magic of chain analysis and AI, all of our transactions can be tracked. And the people that are putting in place this kind of digital dystopian situation are building CBDCs, none of which are based on an open permissionless system. That's reality. We might have thought that, well, they'll have to take this technology because it's so much better. That's not how central banks work. These people will create wars and fund both sides and have hundreds of thousands of people murder each other so they can get an extra 5%. These are people that are not interested in what, as libertarians and people that don't like violence. That's not who's running the show here. They think completely differently. They do not share our worldview, and the technology they're implementing is not the technology that we might hope and wish, which is why I've moved now into more of a, hey, look, this is privacy. This is, I need the ability to engage in voluntary trade, and I'm not engaging in any illegal activity. Immediately, they want to say you're a drug dealer, you're trafficking children. All of that is done with fiat. Most of that is done with the intelligence community and government as active participants in it, right? So all of these claims of, well, we can't have these privacy coins because it will enable all of this other stuff. The people that are running these systems from the top down are the ones that are actually already running that stuff. So I want to have privacy coins and privacy tokens so that I can buy grass-fed meat, so that I can buy raw milk, so that I can actually travel wherever I want to travel without getting shut off based on my usage of carbon credits. That's why I want and need privacy coins and privacy money. And so I've gone down that path. So I like Monero. I like Zano as a crypto because it allows you to tokenize and trade assets. So I can.
Yeah, I interviewed the Zano guys here before.
Yeah. I've gotten really into that recently because of the intersection of CBDCs and the Great Taking. Zano is the solution. So if they're going to require everybody to digitize all of their assets, KYC, AML those assets, and put them on a common ledger that multiple people can control, that means this isn't even just about your money. They can shut off your car, they can shut off your computer, they can shut off and control your ability to even move, trade, or use your own assets. Zano is the antidote to that. This is an ability for you to tokenize your own assets, trade it with people privately without any third party being able to know about it in the middle. That is, I don't think people quite yet appreciate how big and important that is, because money only represents 5% of global assets. So we're actually, when you look at all of the assets, land, stocks, bonds, art, collectible, everything that is an asset, it's literally over $1 quadrillion. So the ability to tokenize and trade assets is an even bigger kind of market size, but it's also, I believe it's going to be necessary, because when they roll out CBDCs in an emergency, unless there's an alternative, most people will take it. And once they take it, it's the end of free will, because once they can control your money, they can control your behavior. Then it doesn't even matter what your issue is. If your issue is, health freedom, if it's food freedom, if it's vaccines, war, whatever your issue is, you're now going to be dead in the water, because they control your ability to move not only your money, but your assets. So there are ways out, and the ways out are to use privacy coins and to start tokenizing and trading assets privately. So that's why it's a serious situation and we don't have a lot of time, but there are solutions, there are technologies. And so trying to educate people on all of this, I'm going to be doing a lot. You're going to see a lot from me on social media, educating people about tokenization, because people don't know everything that you buy and sell is in a database anyway, right? And in most cases, it's in a centralized database, but so much corruption happens. Like with the stock market, there are so many intermediaries in the stock market. You don't own the stock certificate. There are layers of people in between. They commit fraud because they don't actually report on the information properly. And so they don't want to move to a blockchain. I actually spent a lot of time on Ravencoin, and one of the big use cases of Ravencoin, it was as a fork of Bitcoin that allowed you to tokenize assets, but you'd have an open public ledger, which could have fixed and addressed some of the corruption with GameStop and AMC, with the naked short selling and what the hedge funds were doing. And so the idea is, we'll tokenize this, because the way the ledger system works right now is fraudulent and it's not transparent. And there's a lot of shenanigans going on. But guess what? Wall Street doesn't want a public open ledger. So they're not interested in those technologies. They actually invested in T0, which was a company that used Ravencoin, and I believe to shelve the patent, because it was the New York Stock Exchange that ultimately took a majority position in it. They don't want transparency. So here we are thinking,
I remember that was Patrick Burns' thing.
Yeah.
Project Medici, yes.
Yeah, I spent tons of time on that. I thought it was a great idea. Patrick's idea of a blockchain tech stack for human civilization, taking this blockchain technology that basically disintermediates corrupt third parties, whether they're government or Wall Street or anything like that. I thought that was a good idea. Guess what? The incumbent players don't want it. They're not taking it. They're not accepting it. This is the problem that I think BSV has. I don't care if it does 1 trillion transactions per second. None of the governments, none of the central banks, and none of the incumbent players want that.
Yeah, they don't want it. They want it themselves, like they're doing with Project Hamilton. but they don't want it for us. They don't want us to have it.
They don't want
100%.
it for us. So how do we fight back? We fight back by saying, well, fine, we're not using your system. We're going to use our system, and our system's going to be private, and you can't track it. So I'm going to trade all my assets. I've already traded. I've actually tokenized the first gold back and traded it on Zeno. I've tokenized, I put a book on Zeno, a PDF. So you can, and I'm going through all of the different use cases just to show people, because they've also built, and it doesn't sound like much, but just for me, who's been working on tokenization, the ability for me to tokenize an asset and to trade it with you wallet to wallet without any exchange or any third party. That is that's a magical experience in terms of what that opens up for voluntary trade. It's like to me, it was a magical thing. So I want to educate people on this, because this is how we stop them. We're not going to vote them out of office. It's just manufactured polarity. There are no two different sides. Just Republicans and Democrats are all pushing. The Republicans are going to push for CBDCs because they need to stop immigrants. That's going to be the argument that they use. They're both going to use terrorism and money laundering. At the end of the day, it's going to be like the CARES Act. We'll get CBDCs on a bipartisan vote. They might not even record the vote. It might even be a voice vote. I have no confidence that there's any differentiation between sides, and it's foolish to think that there is. We just need to opt out. And the technology is there. Some of it, like Zeno's new. I mean, it's been around for 5 years, but they've just released these user-friendly tools. So I want to, I'm not here to pump the price of Zeno. I'm saying download a wallet and start tokenizing things and start learning about what it might mean for you to be able to trade with your neighbors and trade with people around you in a situation where they shut off access to your money and are trying to centrally digitize all of your assets. I just want people to start thinking about what that means and what the implications are. And when you do realize the implications, you realize, well, we do have a solution. We do have a way to fight back. We absolutely can win, but there's not a lot of time, and a lot of what we just went over is very complex. We'll have to do 4-hour workshops, right? There's no 10-minute version of what we're talking about. And for most people, even if there's a lot of information, I wrote this book, The Final Countdown, to be a self-sustaining guide and it was written so that a boomer with minimal technical experience could read this, understand the threat of CBDCs, understand that fiat's going to collapse, and then take steps in the back to download a wallet, to obtain crypto, to learn how to use crypto, to live off of it, to be able to pay bills, to do all those things. It's supposed to be practical. And what I found is people are like, oh, I like the book. Wow, I'm afraid now. I see all the doom, but I couldn't get myself to download the wallet, right? Like literally that was there's really a pain point. There's fear. So I'm like, okay, I'll do workshops and then we'll set you up with the wallet while you're there. So you will walk out empowered with the wallet. That is a necessary step. It would be great if people could read the book and everybody would just do it. But if I have to go to 100 cities and do more and more of these things and hopefully get more people to do these things, to help train new people, because as I said, only 0.4% of people have used crypto in the last 30 days to buy something. But what this actually means is the market is like 99% open to us. I mean, realistically, most people have never used cryptocurrency. So that's an opportunity. It was always an opportunity. Now it's a threat, because if we don't onboard them to the privacy side of this, then they're going to get the tyranny side of this.
Yeah,
so
my top 3 privacy coins are Monero, Pirate Chain, and WowNero.
Yep.
I like Zeno too, but my top 3 are those 3.
Those 3 are good. Zcash, I like all of them. So I'm not going to say a bad thing about any of them. And I use all.
Rexy's a pirate.
Yep. I like all of them. I use all of them. The special part about Zeno is tokenizing assets. That's awesome. That's the thing I'll say about it. So I encourage everybody to just check it out. Check out what the power of tokenizing assets is. But so anyway, it's not all doom. But it is a challenge. And honestly, this Bitcoin conference is a setback for freedom. It
is. So I want to know what your thoughts are regarding all of the on-chain development that is happening within BTC, because it seems to me as if logic and reason doesn't work for the masses. You have to, in a sense, psyop them back through profit. Profit seeking is really what they want, and they become addicts to dopamine. And so it seems to me that to teach them about on-chain assets with BTC is a good way for them to start using the technology and not just holding it as a store of value. Because it seems to me we have to realize that we're dealing with people that have been conditioned, and we're always going to have um we're always going to have difficulty, and they're always going to have an upper hand over us in that they understand human behavior. They understand how to condition the masses. So to a certain degree, we have to find a roundabout way of educating people into using and adopting these more freedom-oriented technologies. Like a project like Zeno to me is very valuable, but in order for me to reach the masses, the way for me to teach them by showing them is to do it within the biggest pool of liquidity where they can have the asset on chain, and that one right now is Bitcoin, BTC. What are your thoughts on that?
Nobody cares about BTC. Nobody's using BTC. Nobody's doing on-chain assets with BTC. Again, collectively, the entire space, 0.4%. Most people that are getting into BTC don't want to use it, don't want to touch it. They don't even have anything to do with it. They're buying it through two intermediaries. They're buying an ETF. They're so far removed. They're removed from the chain completely. They have nothing to do with the chain. They don't even have a wallet, most of these people that are flooding into BTC. So the use of BTC has plummeted as actual money and people doing anything with it. And the new people that are coming in will never touch a BTC. Now, I will tell you, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. So when I do these workshops, you know, I try to take this approach, and I'm going to read this quote because I talked about the different like adoption of technology, but this is a really interesting quote that I found to be true. It's by a guy named Dr. Charles Tart. When an audience is presented with a theory that is one level above their understanding, they find it inspiring. When the information is 2 levels above their comprehension, they fall asleep. At 3 levels, they become angry. And when the data reaches 4 levels above the level of the audience, they want to kill the presenter. And I mean, I think to a certain degree that's true, right? We're not going to get, we don't need to get the masses. We need to get the people that are 1 level above first. I was at an event with G. Edward Griffin, who wrote Creature from Jekyll Island. And he was giving a talk about the Revolutionary War in the United States. And he's like, it was really 0.5% that then basically red pilled 3%. And then the 3% red pilled 15%. And that's how we won the Revolutionary War. Everything starts with a small amount. So I don't care necessarily to convince the people that are at the level of they're buying an ETF and they're not like, but here's where we have an advantage. And this is why I wrote the book and I do what I do. COVID freaked a lot of people out. COVID tyranny woke a lot of people up that were not previously awake. When you go through my book and I explain what they're actually doing with CBDCs, this is no longer an issue of yes, you can manipulate people because they want the number to go up, but you know what? People do respond to fear. And people don't want to be. So you know what? All of the 17 sustainable development goals that the UN is working on, take all of those. That's your social credit system. So then explain to people that if CBDCs are implemented, they'll shut off your money unless you take the vaccine. They won't allow you to eat red meat. You will only be able to travel this many miles. The reason that they're banning gas stoves is because it can't be controlled and measured within a system a social credit system that is tied to CBDCs. And I can show them that they're doing this. I'm not projecting this. This isn't like, oh, here I am with a tinfoil hat. There is something, have you seen this? It's called a Doconomy MasterCard. This is a MasterCard. I haven't. This exists in the world today. It is a MasterCard co-branded with the United Nations with a little circle on it with a 13. And 13 is the Climate Action Sustainable Development Goal. This MasterCard tracks your carbon usage and shuts off the card when you use too much carbon. This is a product people voluntarily buy in the marketplace. MasterCard has formed relationships with 136 companies. They are already tracking a ton of information about carbon output, and they are tying it to your ability to make financial transactions. All of this information is publicly available. People are already doing this today. This exists. So when you get in front of an
Wow.
audience of people, and so you say to people, do you want that? Do you want your life to be determined by what technocrats say you can and cannot do based on carbon usage? And I will tell you, that is enough right there. That will get you millions of people once they understand that aspect of it. Then you do food freedom. Then you do, so you go through all of these different aspects. That's our target audience, because once they know that's what this is a tool for, then they're going to look for something different. Trying to get people to, number go up and speculate and everything, that's not going to get people to understand and appreciate that we are against a concerted effort. They are building these CBDCs. They are building regulated liability networks. I've got the documents. All of the sources for this are them. Their first,
Yeah, it's they're the source. Yeah.
they're the source. It's all their documentation, all of their quotes. None of this is a secret. In fact, they're so convinced we're not going to be able to stop it that they don't even bother trying. They're literally open about it. I mean, they don't go out of their way to highlight it in the media that they own, but they also don't conceal it. But when people find out about this stuff, everybody's got a hot button. And so, I mean, we're talking about, that's where you get people. You get people that don't like COVID tyranny, and they don't want it applied in any of a number of different areas. And once you show them that that's actually what the plan is, then they're engaged. A lot of people, though, don't differentiate between crypto and CBDCs. There's a huge component of people that have a religious aspect to this, that they think they see either CBDCs or crypto as being the mark of the beast, and they don't distinguish between the two. And you know what? I say to them, fine, gold. Use gold and silver. I'm not here to push crypto. I'm here to push alternative assets that separate money and state. But I will say this, just on the ranting about Bitcoin, gold out innovated Bitcoin in the last 5 years. This is a better medium of exchange. This is 1/1000th of an ounce of gold. I use this. I got my haircut. I tipped him with Zano and with a gold back. Everywhere I go, I tip people with this, with a link that then goes to a site that explains all of the different alternative assets. They out innovated Bitcoin. So there's no excuse of, oh, Rome wasn't built in a day. It's just going to take time. It's going to take thousands of years. Oh, it's all about your time preference. No,
Yeah.
you have to build stuff that works. That's easy. But I'm telling you, get people to understand the truth. Like, don't lie, don't fearmonger. Get people to understand the truth of what's going on. Then they're receptive. That's why when I do the workshop, by the time the first half of the workshop is over, people are like, okay, what do we do about this? Okay, well, here's what we do about it. Here's this wallet. Here's this. Tokenize this. Use this. And start today. Just do one transaction. Just make that. I mean, look, yeah, that's
Aaron,
how
you gave me a lot of hope. You've given me a lot of hope. I'm pretty sure a lot of people here listening to you are getting hope. I have so much hope that you've given me that I want to go to one of your workshops now. I want to go see you in action. I want to help out if I can. Because it's almost, it is, you called me out on it, and you're right. It is frustrating. It is disheartening. And I work with Jeff Berwick. Like, he tells you these things all the time. So to me, it's like sometimes I just have to like step away from it all so I can be sane and focus on solutions through crypto. Pardon me, what were you saying?
Well, but and I get it, and believe me, I've spent a lot of time. I spent a lot of time in dark places, and one of the things for me is my background is not like, I'm at the Brownstone Institute now, but my background is not as an author. I'm not somebody that goes out and does lectures. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I like to build solutions, and in this particular instance, it's like, okay, this is the right intersection of education and solution. Because if we didn't have solutions, then going around and spreading doom would be a horrible thing. I hate doing that. And I will say, what I've heard in the last 6 weeks with the different talks that I've done in different places, a lot more people understand the problem. A lot of people are like the WEF, Klaus Schwab, UN. There are a lot more people awake to that. And a lot of people are saying, I don't want to hear any more about the problem. Unless you've got a solution, then you're just adding to my emotional distress.
Nice.
But you know what? We've had the solutions. We've been working on the solutions a long time. I know Jeff's a big Monero fan. You're in all these privacy coins. We're in, you know what? We've got it. Now we just need to figure out how to explain it to people. And now it's not just a, hey, this is like a cool, you know, it's just it's people like us in our little niche. No, this stuff is privacy coins and privacy tokens are for everyone. This technology is for everyone deserves privacy and the ability to engage in free trade. And a lot of times it's tough because I mean I've done this too. I mean I'm a nerd, you know, started using computers when I'm 5, the whole 9 yards, and it's like, but you know, you get to the point where some of it's like it's a cool factor of, hey, me and my buddies are doing this. Now that's not what gets me excited. What gets me excited is how do you make it so that a grandmother can use this? How do you make it so that anybody can use this? That, you know, they don't have to have a high IQ. They don't even have to be that technologically sophisticated. And I'm going to give you one example of something that I'm working on with this point of sale system that I hope to be able to do. Imagine a situation, you're a merchant, you take multiple cryptos, you take Monero, you take R, you take whatever, Zeno, but you don't want to deal with multiple coins. You want to have only one coin. So let's say you want gold, tokenized gold. So you use something like Zeno to do an exchange, right? Behind the scenes, you're getting Monero in, it's exchanging it out for a gold token. Now imagine you have a gold token that you can take to a gold back ATM and physically withdraw actual gold, physical gold. So now you have a way to have a privacy token and to blend the digital with the physical. That is something that is possible to do. Because I know the gold back people and everything else. A lot of the challenge that we have right now isn't even technical. A lot of it is getting people in precious metals and crypto to realize we are not opponents. We all have a common enemy. And that common enemy are these people that want a technocratic form of government where scientists and engineers make all of our decisions for us and we don't have any rights. That is what we are up against. That's what all of us are against. And if we can work together on this, then a solution like that, so now if I'm a merchant, it's like, okay, the merchant's getting paid in gold. Or the merchant maybe wants to get paid in Monero, whatever it is. They don't have to necessarily manage multiple different cryptos, but now they can appeal to a wide customer base that has a combined a combined buying power, a combined market cap, if you will, that includes multiple cryptos and gold and silver. And now we have a solution that competes with CBDCs. So I think that all of this is doable. It is a function of time. I don't even know how to look. I think where I get triggered probably the most is watching people who I know are pro-liberty, have been pro-liberty from the beginning, have been involved in Bitcoin early, and got in it for separation of money and state. And now they're at this conference speaking to politicians, and they're trying to convince politicians to buy Bitcoin, and they're getting excited about having Larry Fink, hopefully Larry Fink from BlackRock, can speak to their audience. Those people know better. A lot of the other people don't know any better, and so I don't have any animosity. I don't try to have any animosity towards anyone, but the people that are really problematic are the people that know better and are leading people intentionally into this just to increase the amount of fiat they have.
Yeah, I mean, I echo the same sentiment that you have. And I recently I called out the CEO of this conference who was a Bitcoiner alongside me. He met me at the early Bitcoin conference and I called him out and he told me that I was overreacting. Um because he was happy and cheering on the fact that JP Morgan is now taking a role within Bitcoin as BlackRock. Um, I told him that I really do hope that what he sees leads us closer to freedom, but it really is disheartening to say the least. And I notice a lot of people are of the opinion that like it's not if you can't beat them, join them. But I've seen a lot of people that have come to at least a realization within themselves that that tyranny is inevitable and that the best thing that they can do is to play within these networks like BTC, like Solana, that are open and transparent to psyop people into a more freedom-oriented use case of the technology, which, I'm all for more freedom. I'm all for creating more freedom. It's just that people that we're up against are specialists in human behavior. They understand. They've been manipulating the masses for forever. So I actually champion the counter psyops, if you will, that are necessary in waking people up. But at the same time, it's been this, to be honest, it's been disheartening for me to see um, the desire for number go up to obfuscate freedom go up. And it doesn't matter if you're a millionaire or a billionaire, it really doesn't. If you're not connected with the political class, with the ruling class of your country, you're going to find yourself living in slavery pretty soon, actually. Not in the near future. I'm talking about um by 2030, more than likely, you're going to be enslaved. And you're going to be told where to shop, how to shop. You're going to be under mass surveillance. You're going to have social credit scores. It's going to be a pretty nasty existence. And it's hard for guys like me and like Aaron to talk about these things because we understand what's happening, and it's really up to the solutions are there still. That's kind of like the silver lining, is that the solutions are there and we just have to use them. It's that simple. It's that simple. Like when I go into a privacy coin, I don't think about number go up, people. I buy the privacy coin and I'm not thinking about selling at the next all-time high. No, dude, I'm thinking about, in 20, 30 years, this little bag right here may save my life and save the life of a lot of people. That's how I'm thinking. Does that make sense? That I'm not thinking about number go up. I'm thinking about the usefulness of the technology itself. It's been sad for me to see people use privacy coins as speculative vehicles. They buy low, sell high, and they're libertarians. And I'm admonishing the libertarian audience that we have, because you guys are not, you guys that sell Monero, that sell Pirate Chain, that sell Wownero, Zano, whatever other awesome privacy coin technology that is out there, when you sell it, you're literally taking freedom away from the world. And I'm just being very blunt. You really are. You really are taking freedom away from the world. If your job, if your whole point was just to make money, well then go do it somewhere else. Go do it on a meme coin. Go do it on a transparent surveillance coin. Don't prostitute something that is life-saving for all of us, because that's really what you're doing. You're prostituting technology that is life-saving and life-giving to all of us. So that's pretty much all I have to say. That's my rant. As you can tell, I'm exhausted on the topic. I'm like, yes, Aaron, you're right.
Well, you
What
know,
do we do, man?
so I'll tell you, I went through this to this situation. Like the fact that I'm doing what I'm doing right now is not surprising in one respect, but it is surprising in another. I went through a long. I've had a lot of money. I've made a lot of money, lost a lot of money a couple of times, and I was living in a 6,000 square foot house, had a Tesla, all that other stuff, and I just reached. This was before COVID. I'm like, you know what? I'm done with this, and I went through a process of downsizing everything that I own. So I exited fiat, exited the bank, got out of the house, downsized everything that I have into 2 suitcases, and just went through like I guess a spiritual process of just kind of resetting, letting go of as much of everything that I can, belief systems around anything. Like I just went through a whole journey of, focusing on my health and completely resetting. And what I found was I actually don't want that stuff anymore. And what you realize when you go through a process like that is so many people live in fear, or they live in a state of acquiring things based on how others will perceive them, not even about whether or not they get any actual value or utility out of those things. It really does become a rat race. I mean, you get, and so what happens is when you go through all this process, and part of it as well is it's like exiting not just banks, but exiting mainstream media. I canceled cable probably 15 years ago, exiting as much big tech as I can. Some of it I haven't been able to. Exiting big food, stopping seed oils, being conscious about what I eat, making sure that I don't have to engage with the healthcare system at all. Because most prescription drugs are completely unnecessary. And in fact, once you get on them, it creates dependency. So it's just like, and what you find when you go through this process is we need actually very little. And once you realize you need very little, it empowers you to be able to be willing to say, you know what, I actually don't even need any of that stuff. I'm not sitting here, because so many people are going to give up their freedom slice by slice to hold on to what they think are things that they already don't own. So for instance, you already don't own your stocks. Do you really own your property? When they go through and they decide that it's a climate emergency and they need your land for the trees and they use eminent domain, do you really own your property? If they decide that you have to pay taxes using CBDCs and your CBDCs have been shut off because of your behavior, do you really own your property? This is a situation where we need to win, and we need to win by exiting. You don't win something you have to, what you resist persists. So by fighting within these systems, we're giving these systems our energy. Pull the energy out, completely pull the energy out, put the energy into the other thing. And not, I mean, you mentioned something, there are a lot of NPCs. I don't know if I necessarily call them NPCs, but the programming has been intense. But they could go either way. They're not ideologically aligned to where they are. They're where they are out of lack of consciousness, not out of having made a conscious choice for one decision or another. So the way that we defeat the tyranny view is by living the freedom view in a way that others can actually see and start to experience and start to join in on. And so to me, there's like, so now there's no, you can't, there is nothing that I have no fear about this. You could take away everything that I have. I actually don't even care. I know it doesn't even matter. And you got to get to that point where you're willing to go all in. Do we really want freedom or not? And and look, the frustration for me is people that claim to be libertarian and claim to be fighting for freedom, but they really aren't with their attention and energy. They're claiming to be libertarian, but if their actions are cronyism and their actions are in these other areas, then they're not really libertarian. They're libertarian in words, but not in action. Well, you have to have your actions need to be congruent with your words. And if you can get to that place of authenticity, then it doesn't mean the challenge isn't big, but you kind of don't care because you're all in. You're committed to living what you say you believe in. And so few people do this. Again, this is why the United States happened and the Revolutionary War happened. It happened because 0.5% started that way, and then people followed that. We're not going to get mass market right away. We have to like chop off and just say, all right, I'm not going to worry about the mass market. But what we need to worry about are the people. But we have millions of people that are clamoring for the solutions that we have. They just don't know it yet, right? They're in a position where they're aware now. Yeah, no, I don't like either party. There's not a political solution. I don't want CBDCs. Now the Federal Reserve, most people don't know every fiat currency in human history has failed. They don't have any background about how money works, but they understand now based on inflation that the Federal Reserve isn't doing a good job. And so now they're open to having a conversation. So now I can sit and explain, and I have a chapter in my book and I say, here's the history of money. Here are the 7 reasons fiat currencies collapse. They have 100% failure rate. Here are the 7 reasons. Here's the United States. We're flashing red on all 7. Usually a currency collapses for 1 or 2 or maybe 3 of the reasons. We have all 7. Right? Once people understand that, now they're receptive. So again, I guess I take the approach of radical honesty, presenting the truth, and trying to live the principles. And I actually don't think it takes that many of us to do that, to have a huge outsized impact. I think some of these people are starting to have cognitive dissonance. I'm seeing some of these BTC maxis that are kind of like, at what point, all right, well, maybe the fork wars and the thing with BCH, maybe, you kind of brush that off. You're like, well, maybe that wasn't a big deal. But Well, it was, but you looked past it, and so now you are where you are. Well, I mean, how many times? So now Jack Dorsey, who's the king of the censorship industrial complex, who literally was censoring people and working with the FBI and working with federal agencies. You think he's your guy? He's out there hanging out with Beyonce and Jay-Z. You think he's had a life transformation? Are you
Yeah,
nuts?
literally the guy that positioned himself against BSV the most. Isn't that crazy? Like, I thought BSV didn't matter. Like, why would this dude who has so much power and influence position himself against who is the no-go zone, the unmentionable, you know, version of Bitcoin that you can't talk about in polite company because you'll get censored. And yet he's taunting that same community at the Super Bowl, sitting next to Beyonce and Jay-Z wearing a Satoshi shirt. Like you can't make this shit up, man. It's just,
No,
it's
no.
wild.
Well, so now this is their guy, and now Sailor is their
Yeah.
guy. That I
Taylor.
played this
Oh,
video.
Larry
I
Fink is their guy.
Larry, and some of these people are kind of like, all
Yeah.
right. I see this even on my posts. Some of these people are like, they didn't like what I had to say about it being hijacked, and they might want to argue about the digital gold, and there's some people that are honest enough. People have changed their minds. I want to say this: hijacking Bitcoin has changed people's minds. I have tons of people that have DM'd me that I've had people that have said, look, I've now lost my core group of friends because now that I know this, I can't be involved in it. And the guy was like, he's grateful that I was out there doing this because now this is like forming a community for him. There are people that, I mean, you know this because these people you get into these groups, but there are people questioning this. When you read Hijacking Bitcoin, I thought the book could have been Roger ranting about all of the stuff that he went through. This book is all factual, and usually it's in the words of the BTC developers. It's actually in the words of the other side. It's not Roger's like, this is my opinion of this. I was there. It's like, here's the fact, here's the documentation, here's the source. And so all of these people that blocked me, all of the Adam Backs of the world and everything else, they didn't engage in a debate. They didn't refute a fact. No one has refuted any of the factual information in this book. People have changed their minds, which is why it's a shame that Roger is not able to be out publicly talking about it, and why but the truth does work. The radical truth
Yeah,
does
interesting
work.
how he was arrested right after the book was out. Coincidence, coincidence. Like I think the only aspect about that book that I don't like is a subtle one. That it's in a sense it's Roger Ver saying the small blocker cartel won. I don't think they won. I don't think they won anything. What to me that what they won is a partnership with BlackRock, a partnership with JP Morgan. The small blocker camp that took over the ticker of BTC, what they want was their friendship to the legacy financial system. That's really what they want. But they killed Bitcoin in the process. That was their what they at least attempted to really kill Bitcoin. And they crippled it. Um that's why I keep asking you about all of the on-chain innovations happening in BTC and what your thoughts are on that, because a lot of the people within this are big blockers that see everything that has happened with ordinals, with runes, with atomicals as an opportunity to teach people within Bitcoin BTC about other faculties that are proper to Bitcoin itself natively.
Yeah, I get the point. I guess I'm more worried about CBDCs and the digitization of all of these assets, and so that to me is not the target market. The target market, I mean, we have 99% of the planet out there. We have people that have net worth and that have not been exposed to any of these ideas at all. The ROI on trying to convince people about what's the market size for that, right? Like I don't think that's not going to move the needle. Like to me, that's a gigantic distraction. I mean, we need peer-to-peer digital cash. Showing people ordinals isn't does nothing. We're going to need peer-to-peer cash potentially within the next 12 months. Ordinals isn't like that's too that doesn't get you there. That doesn't get you there at all. And at the end of the day, Bitcoin is still owned by clearly whoever owns the developers. And that
Correct.
has been the case. And
Yes.
I have not seen unless I've missed something, none of this ordinal stuff. Is there a single BTC core dev that has been positively persuaded by ordinals?
I mean, and that's the thing. I think that they are in the position where they have to accept on-chain scaling, but they only do so drip by drip. So you have someone like Andrew Polstra working on opcat, which is an opcode that they plan on enabling. At least they're saying that they're going to enable on BTC, re-enabled after they disabled it. In the future, who knows? No one really knows what's going to happen. But what we do know is that yeah, that these are a group of people that um are not playing for the side of freedom. They really are not, and we just have to be blunt about it and call it for what it is. They've been yeah, the word is hijacked. They've been hijacked. They work for the powers that shouldn't be, and they have been working for the powers that shouldn't be from day one. I mean, dude, Jeffrey Epstein funded them. I mean, how much what else is there to say? And this is proven.
Well, yeah, and so
Um,
on top of that, so then you've got Saylor calling for ossification. So again, to actually get these changes implemented, you're going to have to get agreement with the miners and everything else. Who's going to influence that more? Larry Fink and Michael Saylor, or some devs? Because I think there are so many things to learn from this experience. Not all open source projects are great. Open source is not a pan. It's like there are people don't want to talk about a lot of these things, but there are not benevolent people that just develop code for free and audit code for free. That's not how any of this actually works. And I think there's an ideology behind that that's fake, that's provably false. Even Linux is, I mean, there's no good example. If you're just objective about it, it's like, okay, yes, there are benefits of having open source code, but you have to acknowledge that the people that develop the code are funded somehow, and there are priorities and incentives around that, the same as with people that will test the code. So as long as you understand and appreciate that, but that has not been the case. There's been this religious cult-like experience where it's like the whole code is law and that all of these developers are great. None of that's true. The developers have been an absolute train wreck. I mean, Satoshi, he handed it off to Gavin, and then it's been like an absolute nightmare since then. Putting in
I
place
mean,
what
well,
they call
Gavin got kicked out.
yeah, yeah, no, Gavin got kicked out, and then when you look at what happened with the fork wars, and the pressure and the tactics that were used to keep the block small, we're in a worse position. There are worse actors now, and there are more of them. So I don't believe you're going to be able to change Bitcoin at all. I don't think Bitcoin is uh, uh, in fact, I think Bitcoin needs to be explicitly called out, which is why I'm doing what I'm doing today and tomorrow. Because when I do travel, because people only know of Bitcoin, most people don't even know of Ethereum. Most people only know literally of Bitcoin. Um, when Bitcoin collapses and has whatever goes through whatever it's going to inevitably go through, when the price tanks, right? And then the boomers are like, I'm getting out of my 401ks. And then all of a sudden it spirals. And then miners are sitting there saying, well, wait a minute, we don't even process any transactions. And so now we're not making any money. When that whole cascading thing falls, then everything is going to be associated with it. So we've got to go out of our way to call out Bitcoin explicitly while explaining that there's something different. Because I don't want to get caught into any association with what Bitcoin is now. And I don't see anybody making changes to it that are positive. I saw the ordinals thing and everything else. I don't think that is going to work. I don't see that working. You'd think it would. I mean, I've used it as an example, but good. If we get CBDCs in an emergency, Bitcoin couldn't handle ordinals. Can you imagine what the transaction fees would be and how long it will take to get transactions done if they implement CBDCs and people tried to flock to Bitcoin? Right? Would it be $1,000, $2,000, 3 weeks to get transactions cleared? 4 weeks? I mean, literally, we haven't fixed anything from December 2017. That's what the ordinals showed me, but it doesn't seem to have shown the core devs or have made any impact on how Bitcoin actually functions. So that's why I want to be completely not associated with Bitcoin. And now it's going to get, now that these politicians are involved, look, this Cynthia Loomis, it drives me nuts, right? This senator from Wyoming, she puts the laser eyes on. She did this a long time ago. And everybody gets all excited and everybody's sharing, oh, we've got a Bitcoin senator. The bills that she has written with Gillibrand out of New York have all given banks more power and have all required more reporting from the individual. I posted a quote from her yesterday where she is against any project that isn't a public, open, transparent ledger. She is against privacy coins, and to the point of drafting legislation that says that. So these people are celebrating her, and they are trying to get her. She will be announcing purchasing BTC for America's strategic reserve. This person is not ideologically aligned with freedom at all. This is pure cronyism.
It is.
So
it is.
And this is the person that people who I know who are hardcore libertarians have advocated and shared her stuff. Not so much now. And now, look, this is why I think people are having cognitive dissonance, because just as you described, yeah, this is an emotional process, right? Freedom is on the line. And some of these people are also going through this because they're looking in the mirror and they're saying, well, wait a minute. Yeah, I mean, my number's going up, but what is my life really going to be like?
I'm telling you, every single BTC maxi at this point, you cannot call yourself a libertarian. If you're a BTC maxi right now, the crypto vigilante is telling you that you are no longer a libertarian. You've been excommunicated. And I'm speaking to you, whatever his name, Max Kaiser. I'm speaking to all you fucking assholes that sold us out to the likes of the people that Jeffrey Epstein funded. So I haven't read the book Hijacking Bitcoin, but I do have it. I intend to read it, but I lived it myself. I'm a big blocker. I've always been a big blocker, fighting for everything that Satoshi gave us. And so I will read it, but I'm going to have to meditate a lot before I read it because it's going to be it sucks to see how something so beautiful has been co-opted. And yet the worst part is that these people that call themselves cypherpunks, that call themselves libertarians, are the ones who are literally ushering in tyranny using this crippled version of Bitcoin. It's actually pretty sad.
No, it's very sad. That is the most frustrating. People that I know that with the day I met Roger, a lot of these people met Roger. That was their first exposure in 2012. That was a transformational event in New Hampshire.
And I'm not talking about a few of them. Look, I'm being very, dude, if I had a roster and a list of names, I will fucking call you out one by one that you are now aiding tyranny, that you've reached the apex of the small blocker agenda, which was to turn Bitcoin into a prop, into a toy for banks and for banksters. That's what you did. Congratulations. I'm happy your fiat bags went up as the whole world goes into tyranny, where Bitcoin could have been something life-saving, something very good for all of humanity. You literally set us back not only a decade, but probably forever in living in a turnkey tyranny. So yeah, it's fucked up what you guys did. It really is. And my only hope is that the whole crypto space grows now, and that the best technologies that are freedom oriented actually grow. That Bitcoin is not the only $1 trillion asset, that there are many after that there are many $1 trillion assets that come after what we call Bitcoin, which is BTC, but that I honestly don't consider Bitcoin to this day. I can't. It's a catastrophe. How can you tell me something that is run by BlackRock is Bitcoin? That makes no sense. Your little red light blinking under your pillow that you call full node does nothing to secure the network. You've been lied to. And the thing is that I'm even tired of telling you how you've been lied to. So I'm just going to try to wake as many people up with money that is actually freedom oriented. Because
So yeah.
yeah, otherwise it's sad what they did, man. I can't believe they're celebrating tyranny. It's crazy.
It's said, and why it gets worse. This is why I think this event is horrible, because you bring up Max Kaiser. How long before these guys are saying all other crypto should be banned except Bitcoin, like Max Kaiser said and pushed in El Salvador, right? They've made all the other coins. You can't. The other coins aren't legal tender. The other coins
Yeah.
are, I don't know what the exact designation is. I mean, if you listen to Max, they're
Yeah,
all
Max
illegal
Kaiser,
securities.
yeah, he made himself a name by calling out banksters. I'm telling you
Yep.
right now, in the world of finance, Max Kaiser right now is probably one of the biggest tyrants.
Yes,
Like at this
absolutely.
point, at this point, I would have more plausible deniability in aligning myself, like being friendly with someone like Jamie Dimon because he comes from a world of banking. He doesn't. He never promised you that he would be a libertarian or that he was a libertarian. He is who he is. He's always showed you who he was. Whereas Max Kaiser made a name for himself being a libertarian, calling out the banks, and now yeah, it's worse. It's worse when someone knows better. So it's
But understand that's what's going on at this conference. So they're cheering on Loomis, who is supporting legislation that is against privacy coins and wants the US government to use taxpayer money to buy their coin. This is so they're not even neutral anymore. They're actually actively opposing and promoting a tyranny. They're opposing freedom and promoting a tyranny agenda. And when you go through
wow.
and you look at all the politicians, and I've gone through all of the legislation. The legislation is terrible. All of it is terrible, and nobody reads these bills. So somebody puts a blockchain freedom on the title. You could put a USA competitiveness blockchain freedom bill, and the text of the bill can be: we're going to round up everybody that has self custody, and we're going to publicly execute them. And half the people on crypto Twitter would never have read it, would be sharing it, and would be cheering. Literally, nobody reads this stuff, but none of it is good. There is not a single piece of legislation that I have seen in Congress that improves freedom, improves self custody in any way. So, what they're going to be doing over the next couple of days with the different politicians that they have on there is they're going to be pandering. Uh, RFK's running mate, his VP candidate, her boyfriend or whatever, is one of the main people involved with Lightning. So they're pushing one agenda. The Trump people, I'm not even fully sure who's influencing all of that, but you can see from Trump's language, he doesn't understand crypto or CBDCs. He put out a thing that said, well, America needs to remain competitive and first. We need to make sure that we mine all of the Bitcoin, right? It's like they've already mined 92% of it. What he's even proposing is preposterous, doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense, isn't even contextually relevant. The tweet that he put out, everything in it was wrong in terms of a description of even how it works. Now, so he's just pandering, right? But the problem is, and I say this, I've been close to politics for 30 years. My stepmother started out in Republican politics in Florida at a low level. She was the co-chair of the RNC from 2012 to 2016, and she was Trump's ambassador to Costa Rica. I have seen politics at the very highest level. I've been involved in it at the local level, run for office, run campaigns. There is no political solution. These guys are all getting played and all getting co-opted. I have never seen a liberty person come out of a political process where they didn't turn into a statist, where they actively engaged in it. And they all say these things. Well, this is how the game is played. Don't hate
Yep.
the player. You know what? No, exit the game. Stop playing rigged games. You're walking into something you know is a rigged game. And so these people don't want to admit it to themselves. But some of them are struggling. I don't know how to push them over the edge, because if you get a couple of them, you could actually have a groundswell.
Yeah, we're at the game of chicken moment in time. In a lot of ways in crypto, like a lot of these guys are in a game of chicken. So the first one with that has notoriety that steps away from their cult, uh, there is going to be a stampede following him. It's a game of chicken. The same thing is this is why I like what's happening with what's all the on-chain pressure that BTC is having with ordinals, with all of these opcodes, is because there's a game of chicken that has also started, that the sooner or later someone is going to have the financial pressure to ask the core devs, or to like demand an increase in block size and in script size, and that's going to lead to a stampede,
I think
to a scalable
market
Bitcoin, that is.
mark it down. It is more likely that they will increase the number of coins or actually implement direct, flat out censorship than it is that they will increase block size. I think there's a 0% chance that they are going to be successful getting pushing these people to increase block size. And again, just look, if you look at the track, this is why Roger's book is useful. If you look at even how we got here, even how we kept small blocks and then implemented replaced by fee, and how all this stuff got put in there. It's like this is a situation where they've now bought the digital gold narrative. They are celebrating high transaction fees. You know this, you see this. Whenever I'll always put up things like it's $75 to use Bitcoin on chain. Oh, good. Have fun staying poor. We can get rid of the pores now. This is literally what these people do when this happens. They celebrate high fees because they've sold themselves on it's. Again, I have a video clip. It's part Roger and then it's part Sailor. And what does Sailor say? We don't want to compete with the dollar. We don't want to compete with the Euro, MasterCard, or Visa. We want to comply with KYC, AML, and we want to pay our taxes. We just want to be digital gold. That's good enough. He literally says it. They're not even, there's not even an underhanded aspect of this. They're not even worried about transaction fees. They don't even think that it's important, which they haven't even thought through that. Like, I mean, there's a point where it's like, it's not even cost effective as a store of value in an emergency situation. If people need it even as a store of value, it's not even going to be competitive with precious metals. No one. But I guess part of the reason that I'm gun shy about it is look, Overstock, Microsoft, Expedia, all of these retailers taking it. 2017, people using it.
Right.
That's when we got this huge. Yeah. And what did they do at that? In my entire life, and I've been doing entrepreneurship and tech, I have never been in a situation where when somebody finally reaches a scale point, their decision is, well, let's just keep it slow and expensive, and let's just develop this other experimental technology that's going to take years that may or may not work. No one ever does that. That's not how people act. And that's literally how they've acted. So I don't think that, but I will also say at this point in time, where I've changed recently is I'm not wedded to even Satoshi's vision or the white paper. I'm not entirely convinced that the whole thing wasn't a psyop. So I'm no longer as wedded to which one is actually Satoshi's vision, because at this point we actually need privacy coins. And I might have thought differently had this played out differently, but we are where we are. And so what these 134 countries all over the world are rolling out are centralized permission systems. So what we need to counteract that is not going to, Satoshi's vision does not counteract that. We now unfortunately need something else. So I'm kind of at a point where I'm like, all right, I'm letting go of that. There are certainly brilliant things about it, but then people become so, it's kind of like it was Zano. One of those interesting things is like, well, it's a hybrid proof of work, proof of stake. And people are, and I always hated proof of stake. I'm like, well, this is just more centralized. This isn't any different than anything else. And then I looked at the way that they did it, and it's like, well, actually, this is more secure. And you don't have these validator nodes. Everybody has a probabilistic equal shot. And it's actually harder to attack this than it is proof of work. So there's kind of all right, well, maybe you can let go of this was done this particular way. It isn't necessarily the only way. The not having a pre-mine, I get that. I would argue that failed because there wasn't funding for the project within the project that enabled it to get hijacked. And that's what enabled people to buy and influence the developers to destroy the protocol. So people could argue, well, a pre-mine is a scam. Pre-mine could be a scam, right? If you did a pre-mine and then you just bolted, then it could be, and it certainly has been a scam with a lot of projects. But Zane, the way they did it is they have an auditable wallet, and they were upfront with. I think you paused again. I see the thumbs up. They have an auditable wallet. It's been around for 5 years, and you can see the funds flowing out, but they at least have funds to do development and to work within the original framework. So I don't even think pre-mine is a sacred cow anymore. And so I think that there's a lot of. So are there good things in Bitcoin? Yeah, I think the best thing about Bitcoin was how it all worked together. But if you just take the individual elements of it, well, if you're not implementing the entire system in that way, you don't actually need to necessarily cherry pick the individual parts. That thing worked as a whole, and it actually doesn't work not as a whole, which is why BTC is what it is. It is not Satoshi's vision. It's a butchered form of that. So there are completely different things that you could do that are not Satoshi's vision at all that may or may not work. But when you don't understand the fundamental economic system, which is clearly what's destroyed Bitcoin, you can't unwind that. Like, I've been to these Bitcoin, I'm sure you've been there too. I've met miners. Like, they don't even think about, like, it's almost like they're, in San Francisco in 49 with their pan trying to get gold. They've not thought through. They're just like, well, this is the price for mining a Bitcoin. This is what my profitability is going to be. They haven't thought through the fundamental idea that the mining reward was meant to be a subsidy to kickstart the network so that at some point it does scale where you make money on transactions. These miners are not sitting there thinking about transactions at all, which to me is mind-boggling. People spending hundreds of millions of dollars to buy ASICs for a pure speculative play without thinking through the overall business of transaction revenue, which is bizarre to me. That I don't even know how you could wind up in that spot. But I've been to conferences, and I've certainly sat with people where, they literally have never even thought about transaction revenue. They're literally just chasing speculative price.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's the way the story has unfolded, unfortunately, but we still have good technology that can give us more freedom, guys. And we have to figure out what that technology is. We have to use it. We can't just use it as an investment vehicle or to speculate for more fiat. Because this is the funny thing is that I go this chicken and egg conversation ensues where I say this and they're like, well, if it's a good technology, then it will be profitable to be part of that technology, now would it? And you measure that profit by fiat, by the price of the its value in the market. And I'm like, sure, yes, correct, but that cannot be the end result of the of why you have that technology to begin with. Otherwise, you'll just have a meme coin culture where you just have funny memes and you trade funny memes with no utility, and that's okay. We have that already. So it's the question that I have is, what is it? What is it that's going to get people to the next level of actually using these technologies?
So I would say this. I don't know if this is actually even an age-based thing, because I started a company in '95, so I've had a different experience. I share your frustration. Like it's almost, to me, there's an entire generation of people that don't understand that you can have voluntary commerce where both sides win. Everything is a Ponzi. Everything is a meme coin. There's literally not, there's like, even the concept of a business model is formed. Why are we doing this? Well, so the token price goes up. Like, we had ICOs where a lot of those were scams, where at least people put the effort of putting together a white paper and a plan to build something. We've gone to the next stage of, we're not even going to try to do that. We're going to create hot dog token, and the whole purpose of it is to get to $1.50 because that's what Costco sells hot dogs for. And people joke about that and everything else. You know what the problem with this is? While we're doing that, they're digitizing real world assets on a platform that can be censored. While we're doing that, they're building CBDCs. So everybody is running into an absolute buzzsaw with this because it all goes to zero because all of the utility is being built and it's by none of the people in the crypto space. And nobody wants to be on the end of the utility that is being built. And once, but people aren't aware of it. This is why over the next several weeks, I'm going to go segment by segment and talk about what tokenization is and what you can do with it. Because I'm going to explain, here's this category, here's stocks, here's who all the third parties are, here's all the layers, here's all the extra cost, here's all the extra friction. If you tokenize it, this is what comes out of it. We'll do art, we'll do collectibles, we'll do car, whatever. I'm going to go through each of those things because what I've found is people just don't know. They haven't thought of it. I've had people that have been in crypto for 10 years that have said to me, well, I don't see what's the point of tokenization. I get this a lot. Literally, what is the point of tokenization? And of course, my response back is, look, like it or not, everything is going to be tokenized. Everything is being tokenized. Everything is currently already in a database in some form. Most of the time, it's in a centralized database that can be hacked and where there's a whole bunch of fraud. But make no mistake, everything is being tokenized. So now, but people don't know that. They don't know, they don't think, they don't understand business models. They don't know how any of these sectors work. So I'm going to try to get as much educational material out there as possible.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Everything is being tokenized just by not by people in the free market.
No, it's called regulated liability network. It's not a myth. We know. And here's the other problem, right? Just the other, by the way, the PSYOP level on this is amazing. When I see people talk about Jasara, Nasara, quantum financial system, XRP, Stellar being involved in all this stuff, none of that is being used in any CBDC project. It's all bullshit. So there are people that have, and I don't know if it's like an intersection with the QAnon people or whatever, there are hundreds of thousands of people that I have seen online following these accounts that believe that there is going to be a great reset in the financial system and that it's starting with the Bank of International Settlements with these new Basel III. There are people being pushed into, I need to go to a bank that complies with the BIS and that if we just wait, XRP and Stellar are going to be used for financial reset. That is all bullshit. So like even the idea, central banking is bad, but the idea that there have been people that have been tricked into actually believing and hoping for their coin being used in a central global digital currency. I don't know how there's a level going on here that I don't even know how to deal with this. It's kind of like when during COVID or what Trump's term or whatever, you had all of these people saying, well, the military white hats are going to come in, implement martial law, round up all the pedophiles, and then execute them on closed circuit TV. And they're rooting for this. They managed to get people to root for martial law and giving military the power to kill people without a jury trial. And people were supporting, they're still supporting these ideas. And this has bled into the crypto realm. And so yeah, we've got our work cut out for us, but just do it. Use crypto. Again, not everybody's going to do what I do and just completely exit the banks and live off of it. And by the way, it's not easy, right? Usually when I give my talks, part of doing these workshops is I explain to people how I live on crypto. And then I'm like, wow, that other people aren't going to do that. So we need better wallets and we need better point of sale systems. I mean, this is just out of, because no one's going to do what I do every day to try to live on crypto. It's cumbersome. I mean, it's kind of gamified in a way. It's almost a game. It's like, am I going to be able to pay for this using this payment method this month? Right. Because if different regulatory things happen and you can't use this crypto card and this, it is almost like living in a video game. So that's not going to be a long-term solution, but we just need to start. And I don't know how we get that back. But by the way, I will say on the flip side, my frustrating thing with BSV is that these people actually think central banks are going to use BSV for CBDCs and that everything's going to work on that. And that is
only the loonies. That's only the loonies that were part of the Craig cult. But
aren't they the ones?
Half of the BSV people didn't believe that. They didn't care for that. It's just a very loud section of them that were the fanboys of Craig Wright. Those were the ones that thought that way, but other big blockers don't think that way.
Well, I mean, because I still see it. I argued with Craig about it on his alt account. I'm like, hey, I've written a book about this. I'm warning people. And he gave me some, oh, I don't need to talk to you. I'm getting a PhD in CBDCs. He's like, you know what? Take your little bullshit, participation trophies. It was unbelievable. And then I wanted to speak at the BSV conference in London. And Kurt helped to try to, because my whole point was, guys, you guys could be the alternative to CBDCs. And then you look at all the people that's like the WEF people and everything else. I'm like, God, this is like what a missed opportunity here. What a fundamentally missed opportunity.
Yeah, so a lot of people think that that whole all of those individuals that around that sector of BSV, they literally are there to destroy Bitcoin. That's why it makes no sense to you, right? It makes no sense to you why there are things that are the opposite of freedom within a network that has a technology that could be very freedom oriented. Why are they patent trolling? Why are they even talking about aiding CBDCs? It's because a lot of people think that in of themselves they were put there, or they're playing a role to keep people away from the full use of Bitcoin by just presenting Bitcoin in a very negative and way that opposes freedom.
Well, yeah, well, no, I mean, it was demoralizing, and it
Of
was
course it
tough.
is.
And it
And
was
that's
tough.
that's the job. That's the purpose, is to demoralize you.
And they did a good job. They siphoned off a segment of
100%.
people who are ideological, who actually want to get rid of corruption. Like they're going after a very specific kind of person. And the irony is that it's somebody that's involved in fraud. Like it gets
Like
mind
if
numbing.
I wanted to kill Bitcoin, that's how I would do it. I would cripple a version of Bitcoin and pump it with fiat and just give it the lowest common denominator of store of value and have it just become BTC and have used libertarian rhetoric around it to keep people enticed in
Yep.
thinking that this may be something that's freedom oriented. That which is that the version of Bitcoin that would remain being one that has a fullness of Bitcoin, all of the capabilities, that version of Bitcoin, I would demoralize people within it by putting puppets in there, people that are just um choking it from within, horrible PR, horrible marketing. Whatever's left of the fullness of Bitcoin, you have to completely demoralize from within. So that's how I would have killed Bitcoin. You can't kill Bitcoin, but you can definitely manipulate it. And yet these blockchains are so resilient that BTC is still giving you on-chain stuff, and BSV is still mining blocks at $40. So
Yeah.
there's hope there. It's just we're at the point where we don't have time, like you were saying. And because we don't have time for a Bitcoin game plan, humanity only has one choice left, which is that of privacy coins, extreme privacy. And I agree with you. Unfortunately, humanity is being driven into the catacombs. Humanity is being driven into living encrypted. That's that's the only choice humanity has. I'm a Bitcoiner, and my desire has always been to use financial incentives and to use aligned incentives found within Bitcoin to better the world, to do things better. But they have the entities, powers that shouldn't be, have gotten in the way of that. I see no difference between a Blockstream and Nchain, for example. To me, they're
Yep.
very similar. They
Yep.
both emphasize giving values to something extrinsic outside of Bitcoin itself, whether it be patents or second layers. They're still extrinsic to the blockchain itself. You had second layers on BTC. I call them second layer applications on BSV, which are not interoperable with other applications because they live within a patented walled garden. So
Yep.
either way, you're moving people away from Bitcoin, and that's why any hope that Bitcoin has left comes from a grassroots movement that builds on-chain, open source, and interoperably. on any of the Bitcoin blockchains at this point. That is the only real hope that Bitcoin has left, and that through financial incentives, people use Bitcoin as a blockchain to create more freedom, whether it be on Bitcoin Cash, BSV, or BTC. Will it happen? I don't know, but you're 100% right. Time is running out. Time did run out. And thank God there have been people working on privacy coins like the Monero community, most notably. And out of the Monero community, you have people that went on to create Zano, for example,
Yep.
and Pirate Chain, which is Zcash, zero knowledge proofs by default, which is right now at this moment still the most private cryptocurrency in the world, with the biggest anonymity set. And you have Wownero, which is like a nice, cool cryptocurrency that came out of the Monero community as well. So I never wanted to have to say this, but I'm at the point where I have to. It's like, yeah, it seems as if humanity's only choice now are privacy coins. Like I always held to that hope of a hyper Bitcoinization, a Bitcoin world, but it's unless there has to be the only way that we can actually have like hyper Bitcoinization still is if there's a breakthrough application on BSV. There has to be something that goes extremely viral that completely like shocks everything and just like something like if you guys want to look into it, treechat.ai, it's like a web3 social network that lives on BSV. I think it's pretty cool. But it would have to be something extremely spectacular that would completely obliterate or downgrade all the negative marketing that BSV has accrued because of Craig Wright and because of guys like Calvin Ayre and Stefan Matthews.
And I
Like,
spent, and I spent so much time on all of that. And again, there's a lot to be said of just letting go. So once you get, which is like, okay, am I attached to this particular thing, or what's is there an end? And the end goal for me is just, I want people to be able to engage in voluntary transactions. I mean, at the end of the day, it's free will versus determinism. It's love versus fear. It's abundance versus scarcity. It's decentralization versus centralization. Those are the things that are actually important. How it gets there, whatever. There's a lot of these things were sunk costs. I spent a lot of time on BSV because it's like, okay, 50 was doing 50,000 transactions per second. We're going to do more. That's something that could handle, be something they could use against CBDCs. And I got involved with BSV on day one, and everything that I've used is gone. There was an AnyPay, the point of sale system. I used to be able to buy gift cards. I used Twetch, literally everything that I used on this thing. And now you can't buy it anywhere except through Rock Wallet. And by the way, when that court thing happened and I went to go, like, that didn't work when I needed it to happen. I ended up having to use some like Change Now or whatever to get out of BSV. And fortunately I did it right at the right time. But if there are no exchanges and there's no way to buy it, which is essentially where we are at right now, it's going to be very hard for anything to happen on BSV. And you know what? But at the end of the day, for me, it's simple. I just don't want CBDCs and I don't want centralized tokens. So I'll gravitate to whatever combination of things. And I'm not even looking for one thing, just a combination of the good, gold, whatever. Let's put all of it together and let's make it all work. And because you can get caught up on any one of these chains and it becomes part of your identity and everything else. And it's like that's hard to break. If you can break it as soon as you can, it'll help. It was a dark period for me. The lawsuit, I watched every minute of the Craig lawsuit, and it was kind of an interesting set of timing because
I didn't know
that
you were
lawsuit.
into BSV like that.
Oh
I
yeah,
didn't know you really. Wow.
Kurt has interviewed me a couple of times, and oh yeah, and yeah, no, I was uh, promoting it, testing it. I actually have it's in my book. I've actually been talking to people about it. I've introduced people to it, and I watched every minute of the trial, and then I went and did research and started because I've spent time in lawsuits, and so I started looking at all of the other. I'm like, oh my god, this guy is I've tracked what he did, right, all the way back to scamming the Australian tax office and then using the paper wallet to scam Calvin. Like it's psychopathic. And the thing that's always hard, like, so for me, I was kind of like, well, maybe he's just like an Ayn Rand character, right? Maybe. So I'm like, all right, well, if he is the inventor, then maybe there's some, and then finally at the end, it's like, no, this is an absolute mess. And so it's funny that trial is going on. And then like, right as that's going on, Roger releases his book. And I actually think Roger releasing his book was a huge thing. It was hugely helpful for me because I was sitting there saying, "Oh my God, I'm spending this time trying to stop CBDCs, and BSV is just completely imploded." And so now where are we? Like that. I was going through that like every day watching this. I'm like, geez. And then thankfully Roger's book came out, and now I think this is put me on a different arc. And so now I'm confident that we've got a shot. It's not, you know, it's not what it's different than it was 6 months ago, but I'm okay with it because I think there's a deeper understanding that what we're up against is actually does not appreciate free will, explicitly does not appreciate free will. What we are up against actually values technocracy, values elites picking scientists and engineers. This is actually what their worldview is. So a lot of time has been spent with people thinking that we can work within that system. You cannot work within a system. There's no shared ideology there. You're either for free will or not. There are some things that are actually pretty binary, and that one, so that's incompatible. That's fundamentally incompatible. What they're building is not compatible with individual rights or property rights. So once you realize that, it's okay. Well, it sucks that that's true. Accepting that is hard because you have to admit to yourself you've been fooled your entire life about everything, right? But once you do that and liberate and get beyond that, then it's like, okay, now we just move on. Now we go build these other solutions. That is what it is, whether we like it or not. What do we do about it? And so I think we've got a shot, but it's been tough.
It's been tough.
The drama is horrible. And I don't think we still know the truth about anything. I don't think we know the truth about Satoshi. We don't know a lot.
So should we just sell out to BlackRock and go celebrate? Because that seems like what all the cool kids are doing. Should we just go do that?
I say sell out of I hold that I think it's possible that Bitcoin was always a psyop. I say we go in on privacy coins and I think it's conceivable that maybe the Liberty community got duped at the beginning. Think about it. I know a lot of people that thought Bitcoin was anonymous early on. Russ Ulbricht did. Other people did. People just didn't understand it properly. So I think maybe there's a certain aspect of libertarians tried to make it something it wasn't. But interestingly, but they're the ones that actually got adoption. So there's this weird sense of without the libertarians, it never would have gotten adopted. But then once the adoption hit, you realize, wait a minute, this isn't what I thought it was. But what the libertarians thought it was, well, we need that. That's actually what we want. So it turns out what we really want was not Bitcoin. What we want is these Monero and some of these
Monero. Yeah, Monero. Monero is what everybody really wanted. And
yes.
Monero's awesome. Monero to this day is still incredible. Research on it keeps growing. The community's stronger every day. No one can disagree with Monero. There's no one disagreeing with Monero. Monero's awesome.
No, and I will tell you when I do these seminars now, I use Cake Wallet. Because I can teach people, it's like, here's Monero, and then you can buy gift cards. You can do all this stuff right within the wallet. So it's actually, there's now an easy way to use Monero where you can teach people how to start living off of and using Monero. So that's a breakthrough for me. So I've become a big fan of that. And Cake Wallet is going to integrate Zano. So I'm like, great, privacy coins, privacy tokens. I'm excited. And I hope they integrate I hope they integrate Zcash. I hope they integrate Pirate, all of it, right? We need, because by the way, we need all of it. We need the combined transactions per second. So there is no one coin that can solve all of this. We're going to have to all work together. But I don't sense as much. I don't even know, because I think I'm new to the privacy coin space. I don't understand what the dynamic is with Zcash and Monero, and I don't know all the inside baseball yet. And I'm supporting all of it.
Zcash is VC funded. Zcash is something that a lot of people don't trust because it comes from a centralized company called the Electronic Coin Company. And so also Zcash itself was never private by default. There's rumors that they want to become private by default in the near future, but they're not. So what Pirate Chain is that Pirate Chain takes everything that Zcash is and makes everything private by default. And that's why Pirate Chain has grown in notoriety and people have respected more and more as time goes on. It did get some mean girl drama with Monero because Monero is Monero, but when the new kid on the block comes in and has Zcash technology that's private by default, then now Monero is pressured to scale its ability to be more private. And so a lot of the Monero devs have been hitting the gas pedal on becoming more private because Pirate Chain is there, and the Pirate Chain community has been very um what's the word? It has survived many battles and it's still going. So it's been very strong. So it's a network that is doing very good, highly undervalued. Pirate Chain's very much undervalued. Monero's very much undervalued. Monero should be at a $10,000 coin, in my opinion, easily.
Yep.
It
Well,
should. I mean, there's no reason why it shouldn't be.
I mean,
Like,
it's struggling with, exchange delistings, right?
yeah, all good things are.
All good things are. And um, so again, this is part of what I like, Zano, P2P crypto exchange. I like some of the other features because we got to work. I'll tell you, so was I onboard people to crypto? One of the hardest things now, even more so than a year ago or 3 years ago, man, good luck getting an exchange account, right? The KYC now is horrible. I mean, there aren't even that many choices left in the United States. They all have terrible customer service. There are delays moving money in and out. Stuff gets rejected. Like it's truly worse than it was 5 years ago. I think from a user experience perspective, how long it takes to set up an account, how long it takes to fund an account, the reporting, it's overall worse, and it's becoming more difficult every day. And now you have AI, Coinbase working with AI, and they're doing all things with the transactions. And KYC is obviously a nightmare in and of itself. So the sooner we can get people off and then get people to start getting paid and using crypto outside of the need for exchanges, the better. Because the
Right on,
exchanges
man.
are an absolute choke point.
All right. Well, you know what really gives me hope
Hmm.
is have you heard of Bitcoin monasteries?
I think I've heard of it, but I don't know. I mean, what's going on with that?
So Bitcoin monasteries is a movement within Bitcoin that has started. It's mostly composed of big blockers, different brands, different strains of big blockers, and they see in Bitcoin being something that is Bitcoin and crypto in general as technologies that need to be protected
Okay.
and need to be cared for. And they are so significant to our well-being as who we are as human beings that in the future we think actually we know that there will be people from different philosophies and religions there will be a monastic class that will take care of the best of these technologies and will safeguard these technologies for all of humanity. And I really think that that is the case, that these technologies are indeed so valuable that sooner or later the monastic class throughout the world of many different religions will see the value in preserving knowledge and wisdom on chain. And they themselves will be custodians of these technologies. And I think that that's a very noble and beautiful perspective to have because it renders um, the reverence necessary in understanding that these technologies can either hurt us or can cause a great deal of tyranny in our world. So to rein in the tyranny, we like guys like us, you and I, we know that right now, sooner or later, we will pass away, but to pass it on to the next generation, it will be akin to a monastic passing on the wisdom, the best of its culture and its religion, wisdom and knowledge to the next generation. In other words, to have a monastic class that is aware of the gravitas of these technologies. And so it is that awareness that I think that needs to be kind of permeated. It needs to permeate more of crypto and in the Bitcoin world in general. And I'm really happy that there are people out there already doing that. Someone to follow would be the founder of Canonic.xyz, R&D, and A. Westgate is another good guy to follow. Mark Wilcox is another good person to follow that is of this mindset that understands what's going on here. Um, so there are good people out there, working on good technology, and I can sit here and talk to you for days, Aaron. I really
Yep.
could.
Yeah, no, I'm sure we could. Actually, I've got to get ready for another interview here in a half an hour. So
Awesome. That's so
yeah.
cool.
So
In
there
an
we
hour
go.
and a half. Okay, so I think it's a good time to stop for you to take a break before your next interview. But I really appreciate having you on the show. Um, I really appreciate how you are speaking out and saying things that other people are not. And thank you for coming on and giving us hope. Um, so in a nutshell, what words of wisdom would you leave us with?
Just be authentic, place your attention and energy on the things that you want, and have no fear. And if you do that, and if we all do that, we actually can stop what's about to happen, because most people are unaware and they're just asleep. So I think there is hope, and I think, but it's all about uh, controlling our own thoughts and behaviors and emotions every day, and that's how we win this thing.
And I'm serious. I would like to help you out and maybe join in the effort of what you're doing with educating people. In any way I can help, let's talk about it after the show. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Peace, love, anarchy, guys. Take care.